Tesla introduces the Model Y in China with its pricing at $52,000 entry and $55,000 for the performance version of that vehicle. This is local pricing for many reasons relative to competitors, which is what we'll be covering today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. Without your support, the channel doesn't exist. We also want to take time to note that we're moving to a model of you can't comment unless you're subscribed. So if you'd like to be able to make comments and enjoy the community that we create, please take time to like and subscribe. So today's focus was kind of what I consider a shocker. It was just announced by Tesla that via a number of news outlets, Bloomberg was the first one that I saw it come out with, that they're going to be delivering at a $52,000 price tag for the base model of the Model Y. This is kind of interesting because evidently at the $50,000 price tag point, there's a large number of incentives that kick in relative to subsidies by the Chinese government. And it's interesting that Tesla hasn't chosen to sort of drop down just below that to get that number. But, you know, I don't put it past Elon to offer a model that allows them to do that, because then you have people potentially buying at the $45,000 price point for the Model Y. Although I think that would really mess up things for the Model 3 within China in terms of its sales and production. But actually, this was somewhat anticipated by Tesla that 60% of their vehicles would end up being the Model Y over time. So, you know, why not go for it? But even if they haven't, they're still delivering a great number. Now, you have to sort of broaden your focus here. We need to take into consideration how this hits a number of variables. So the first one that really popped to mind is I've been going back and forth with US-based investors in NIO. And as you know, NIO has delivered 10,000 vehicles. I think all of them have been SUVs thus far. It's a nice product. It's been doing well, fairly well in China, and the stock has been doing great. But now you have this problem of when NIO is introducing its vehicle as $56,000 and Tesla's coming in at $52,000, this is colossal disaster nightmare in my mind. This really highlights a point that I had made in a few shows ago, where it was my feeling that the Chinese government was slowing down the introduction of the Model Y from the Chinese factory as a way to give breathing room to domestic manufacturers who are trying to find market share against Tesla. With Tesla entering the market like this, it's hard to see how those guys make a go of it. It's one thing to have Tesla be $500 to $1,000 below you. It's another thing to have them to be almost $5,000 below you. And the pool of potential buyers is actually a lot larger. There are a bunch of other issues here. Number one, for example, we've discussed the fact that the only vehicles carried by used car companies that resell in China is actually Tesla's. And one of the main reasons is that their resale values hold up better than any other EV, but better than most of the ICE vehicles that are being resold in the country. So it's our perception that this entry of this vehicle puts in jeopardy all the companies within China that don't have other ICE operations or manufacturing to support their profitability, because it's going to be hard. I think it's going to be hard pressed for consumers not to choose the brand leader in the form of Tesla, the supercharger network that's offered, and the ability to do resales, the ability to do long distance driving using the superchargers that are already laid out, and an increasing size supercharger network. And then the potential that Elon has an arrangement to get power while a lot of other entities can't. So don't be surprised to see creative entrepreneurs buying Teslas and running their factories on Tesla's power because they may not be able to get directly from the Chinese government. So I think this creates a huge opportunity for Tesla and creates also a complete disaster for a whole bunch of other entities. The second tier of disaster here is what's going on with Porsche, Audi, VW, Daimler, and GM. All those companies are major players in China, have been doing well there over time on the luxury end of the market. The problem that pops up is with Tesla delivering an SUV that starts and ends up with the performance at 55, you could definitely see the $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 ICE SUVs being sold by foreign companies having severe difficulties making a go of it, because now people can get the SUV they've wanted a long time. They don't have to pay the $100,000 price of the Model X once it's been imported, and same for the Model S for that matter. And now you get a very capable vehicle at half the price. So based on the fact that they have 100,000 folks that are on a waiting list for this, I expect this vehicle to start selling for above sticker price for the next 6 months, as those early on the line are able to resell their vehicles for nice profits because of how Tesla's chosen to price it. I have to say I'm a bit stunned by the fact that Tesla is operating in that 23-24% profit margin, and it's kind of stunning to see them able to deliver a vehicle for that price point and still maintain their profit margin. This brings up another sort of problem or interesting question mark, which is what's going to happen in Germany and the United States. I do not believe that Tesla can get a car done in the Model Y category for less than $55,000 because their performance version is selling for $69,000, and I believe everything done, it's about $60,000 for the US version of the Model Y. So one would expect, as we run through the large number of Chinese that want their Model Ys, we'll start seeing those Model Ys, as China production grows, start going to Europe, just like the Model 3s. And now we have an interesting situation that's brewing. How will the German gigafactory that's coming on deal with the fact that when you look at all the cost elements, the winner of the cost battle, globally will end up still being China. So one could see production being limited in certain places to the highest sort of performance models that have the highest profit margins, and allow the Chinese plant to sort of deliver high volumes of your lowest cost vehicles. Is sort of what one might expect. But, for any corporation, the issue is if people have established a certain sense for what the price of the vehicle is going to be, and you can make a certain amount of money on it if you have it coming out of China. But then when you try to build and ship from Fremont or Germany, your profit margin ends up being a lot thinner. I just think this is going to create a huge problem relative to where should Tesla be producing vehicles from, and wherever the winning sort of country is. If you're winning by $2,000 or $3,000 a vehicle at least, multiply that by 100,000 vehicles, that's a severe amount of profit for a company to give up just because it feels like it wants to have manufacturing in a certain location. So I think this is going to be interesting to see how the automated facilities in Germany handle the potential for being at a fairly significant cost disadvantage to production in China. We don't have the answer to this, but we're going to find out how this is going to play out pretty soon. Frankly, the other route might also be once the Cybertrucks come out next year, in theory, you could replace production in the United States that might have gone to Europe, et cetera, with Cybertruck production as a way to have certain vehicles coming out of different parts of the world, so you don't have this cost pressure price situation going on between factories. But stay tuned. I think it'll be fascinating. There's the implications of this are very broad and deep. I now see a potential for, if this vehicle actually gets out there in scale quantities of, something like 100,000 a quarter, the pressure on German manufacturers in particular, who are very strong in China, will be unbearable and potentially, I think, put a number of entities out of business, because we know that in the supply chain, Germany has already cut 100,000 people, both internally and within their supply. But in order to get their costs down to compete with Tesla, it's really going to force them into some severe cutting in order to get themselves right-sized to deal with the threat that Tesla maintains as it comes in. So my goal was not to belabor the point today about this new development on pricing for Tesla. The goal was the fact that, wow, if in fact this car is being delivered and consumers waiting on it in China are happy with it, I really think that it puts out of business most of the competing entities in China that don't have other operations, ICE operations. And I also think it starts to jeopardize the longevity of a number of companies that are going to have to respond to this. I guess the final note on this for me is just the fact that I'm very surprised by how Tesla's arriving on price, and competing entities within China aren't able to meet it, especially because the battery they're using is coming from LG and CATL. And I would have expected by now that most of the operations in Shanghai have been replicated by competitors with the help of domestic sort of information gathering. So if the battery is the same and you have very similar costs across the entire supply chain of those vehicles, clearly the software is a competitive advantage, but you would think that the proximity of price would be very, very close if both entities are producing using Chinese suppliers, et cetera. The other lurking question we don't know, and we may find out from Elon in the next 2 or 3 weeks, is he pointed out that the cost inputs in China would be half of what they are for the U.S. manufactured vehicles. So if that does actually occur, there's another sort of data point that will impact everything we've discussed thus far. So what I think this means then is that once analysts get a hold of these numbers and start cranking it out, I think we could end up with Tesla stock being boosted nicely, because all of the competitive threats that everybody was expecting from domestic and foreign suppliers are really get kind of wiped out by this new news. So we shall keep you posted on it, and happy to do so. Wanted to remind you of our health tips. Don't forget your 25 leg lifts. It strengthens your quad muscles, reducing the chance of knee issues. Also wanted to encourage you to not go to bed within 4 hours of eating, minimum 2, allows the food to digest so that food will not impact your sleep or having those stomach acids trying to digest you. Third thing is no more than once a week fried foods, reduces the chance of type 2 diabetes. Third is a 5-2 or some other type of fasting diet is also a healthy thing to consider, both physically and mentally. And we'll stop today with just our other note on 30 SPF or better, and try to maintain your sleep schedule to be the same for a couple of weeks, because a certain fixed rhythm will aid your body in sort of a healthy process. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, Lehitro, Hebrew, Choda Hafez, Farsi, Strasvice, Russian, Ni Hao Ma, Chinese, Hey Do, Swedish, Konbanwa, Japanese, and in Jamaica we say, Nuff respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.